This conference will now be recorded.
Sati, first of all, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. I mean, you and I have known each other for a couple of years now, but really exciting to get you on board here.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here, Brett. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm really excited to have an audience with your listeners.
Perfect. And so for those of us in the sports industry who don't know you, and I'm thinking mostly about the individual sales reps who listen to this, tell them a little bit about your background and your journey to currently running OneMob.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Sati Hilyer, and I've been working on OneMob for now over 4 years. It's been a fantastic ride, a lot of ups and downs, but exciting nonetheless.
You there?
Very well known.
This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, hey, did I lose you?
This conference will now be recorded.
So before starting OneMob, spent 8 years at Salesforce.com, really understanding kind of what the salesperson goes through. That platform is really about helping you manage your sales data, but I also realized that there's a huge opportunity to help sellers be more effective. And so I spent a lot of time with small companies, large companies, helping them to not just build a sales team, but to enable them to be more effective. And through that exercise, that's when I started realizing I think there's still some gaps. I think there's still some things that we see happening in the consumer world. And I think those consumer trends can truly benefit enterprises. We just need to figure out how to make it simpler. And that's really where OneMob was founded, was how do we take some of these consumer trends, things that you're already doing with your family and your friends, using video, things like Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, etc., and how do we take those lessons, those examples, and bring them into a more business-like setting and ultimately help you create a more personal, a more engaging, and ultimately just a better experience for your customers.
Sure. And you and I are going to talk quite a bit about video because you and I both are huge believers in that as we continue to push forward in the sports business. But you said something that I think is really important, is taking a look at sales from the consumer point of view, which I don't think professional sports teams or organizations do enough, period. So if you can talk a little bit about what are some of the other things outside of video that while you were doing that, you saw from a consumer point of view that what consumers were doing that we weren't necessarily mirroring in the sales space.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was a lot of different trends that I was seeing. Probably the most notable one, which also helped kind of fuel my revision, was we had this mantra back at Salesforce, which was, why can't enterprise software be as simple and easy as buying a book on Amazon? And now you think about a company like Amazon, and it's truly changed so many facets of our life. But when you started thinking about this, all of a sudden, I, as an individual, I started thinking about, well, how am I selling? What am I doing? And what can I be doing smarter? And now fast forward to today, that trend is only becoming more and more. I mean, in fact, there's a ton of stats. I mean, probably the stat that's most interesting to us lately is where they're saying now the average buyer will spend about 85% of the entire buyer journey on their own. They don't even interact with a salesperson. And so I think the whole idea that, if I'm a seller and I'm the person that's going to educate my buyer, I'm the one that knows all, and so I'm going to get them to the goal. I just don't think that's a reality anymore. I think we need to think about that. There is just so much information out there, and with these smartphones in our pocket, we have so much access to this information that I actually don't need to necessarily rely on my salesperson. What I do need to do is make sure I can get the right type of data, the right type of content, and that when I am ready to make a purchase, I have an informative, an engaging, and really proactive salesperson that can finish me, through that journey and get me to that path to purchase. And so I think it's really important that salespeople understand that selling, for the most part, hasn't truly changed too much. I mean, I think there's still a lot of fundamentals that are there, but I think the approach and the process, that has evolved quite a bit because of consumer technology.
And what's interesting about that is at the same time, Courtney Blake was on the podcast just a couple weeks ago, and she mentioned you guys a few times. You also have to be customized and personalized to that person too. So even though you're catching them so far into their own process, you've got to make sure that what you're delivering them is not only a strong message, but it feels like it's hitting that right person at that right moment, right?
Absolutely. The data has just become king. And there's this crazy stat I heard where they said in the last 2 years, there's been more data produced and captured than the last 100 years. So when you think about that, there's just so much information out there. And as a buyer, you have this kind of expectation now where I expect the vendors, the people that I'm working with, and really all industries, they should know who I am and what I'm looking for, and they should be able to answer questions, that I haven't even asked because of all that data. And so I think it's really important when you think about, well, what do you want to do with that data? And I think if you can't turn it into a more personal experience, it was a wasted, opportunity. And so, yeah, with Courtney and the Kings, that's one thing that I think we've been really bullish on is, look, when you are thinking about, especially sports selling, you're not selling a ticket anymore. You're selling an experience. You're selling a memory. And if you want to really help that person feel that experience and that memory, you have to know them. You have to know where they came from, what they're looking to do, what their outcome is. And the only way you can do that is by getting that data and then allowing your reps to give a more personal experience to say, yeah, Brett, welcome back. It's great to know that you've been doing A, B, C, and D. And as a result, we think this is the perfect thing for you.
And so I think that's a good segue, because I think there's a really important question. So I'll throw you for a little bit of a curveball here. I know in some of the questions that we had talked about beforehand, we wanted to talk about, what are some of the characteristics that are the same when it comes to sales across whatever avenue you're in. But, now that you've been in and around sports and worked with quite a few teams, what are some of the things that you think are unique to the sports industry that need to be either enhanced or reinforced a little bit more in the sales process?
Yeah, well, I think what's really interesting about the sports industry is you guys have some of the best services and products that people want, right? I mean, going to sports games, I mean, that's something that kids dream about, as soon as they start to like really get involved in this type of this game. So for me, I feel like what's interesting is you guys have such a compelling product, if you will, that the best way to really show that product is through things like video. And if you think about it, most people watch sports on TV on their mobile device. Yeah, if they have the opportunity to be, at the game, that's even great. But I mean, how much time is spent on TV and all these different mediums watching sports? And it's fun to think this whole industry that's really um, driven and moved around video is then being sold in like these old school approaches. And so for me, it was about like bringing this kind of this approach and bringing some synergy here and saying like, look, most of your audience are already watching sports on TV. They're experiencing a video they're having a video moment constantly. But then when it comes to them, being sold, they're being kind of downgraded back to like cold calls and text-based emails. And it just felt like there's this huge gap that, from us, we felt like there was just this real natural affinity toward working with your industry because that's what people do. They watch sports, they enjoy it on TV, they come home and they relax. And so then for you to have that same experience in the buying journey, it just felt like natural. It felt very natural and very effective.
So this is going to sound really odd, but in a lot of ways, I mean, so I couldn't agree with you more about that. I think a lot of times we take ourselves too seriously as salespeople, right? Versus some of the other stuff that industries are selling that are really serious things that have lots of data and information that need to be passed along. In a lot of ways, we're the opposite, right? Like you say we've got a compelling product, and a lot of times we tend to take that very here's all the information and this is the way you need to do it, when we actually kind of need to flip what is a normal sales process on its head and cater to the points of before, like thinking about how they consume their product and what their mind frame is when they consume that product, and switching our sales style up to make it match just how compelling our product is. And a lot of times, sports teams fall short in that. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Absolutely. And I think it's just because we are somewhat victims of just habit, right? We're kind of told to do one thing, we're kind of trained that this is how it works, and as a result, just keep doing the same old, same old. And what's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I think people need to be mindful of the fact that the world is changing, buyers are changing, and you're in an industry that, yeah, you're selling something fun. You're selling something that elicits like a real emotional, a real exciting experience that, yeah, you might not get if you're selling, routers. So I
Yeah.
think as a salesperson, it's really important to embrace that. And if anything, leverage that excitement and say, hey, I'm selling tickets to this upcoming game, or check out this new arena that we're built, or check out, the players. And, that's probably some of the best things I've ever seen in the past, or are involving the experience, right? Involving the other parts of the sports, like the players, the coaches, the actual arena, the excitement, the buzz, the roar, all of that stuff you can capture really well, using things like video, and then giving that to your buyers and saying, look, this is what we want to bring you into. This is what we want to make sure that you can experience this week, this weekend. And I feel like that's something that you can't get with a lot of industries. And so sports to me is something where it's just a no-brainer. I feel like leveraging that type of selling tactic is going to be way more effective than just doing the same old, because you have something so much more compelling to sell.
Yeah, and I think it's such an important point because it really is so difficult. And I know reps struggle with this all the time, which is crazy that video isn't bigger in sports, is that reps struggle to get that excitement into a phone call, an email, into a picture, into a text, right? Like in all the traditional channels with how we communicate with people, we have such a struggle to be able to do it, that video is such a simple solution and impactful solution, yet it's something that still seems way too newfangled for us to introduce into our process.
Yeah, but I will say that I feel like it's folks like you who are going to help change that. Because it's unfortunate that you do have all of these new things that are coming out there, and I can understand as a rep, especially if you're straight out of college and you're trying to figure out what you want to do, you are going to fall back to kind of what is just been told to you, and it's sometimes difficult to kind of think outside the box. And I'll say, for instance, like in my opinion, you, Brett, like I think you've been able to kind of help shape and influence sellers to do think differently. And it's folks like you that I love working with, because you guys are the ones that are going to change these ways, right? You are the ones that are going to change this culture and help them to embrace technology and do different things in a more impactful way. It takes time, but I think together, the more Bretts that I get to work with, the better, because that's what's going to benefit the ultimate buyer.
Well, I appreciate that. And it's something that, we're certainly aiming to do here. And, and I think it's products like yours that help that process. But ultimately, a lot of it really is just taking a step back and thinking about, even though you as a manager may have done it this way, there's a big opportunity to take a step back and say, well, that's not the generation of sales reps that are coming into our organizations every day. These salespeople that are coming into our organizations are used to chatting back and forth between video, documenting things and displaying it to their peers and displaying it to other people. So can you talk to a manager or director that did not grow up selling with video, who has reservations about allowing reps to represent their brand through video and not necessarily having control of it, why it is important to harness that from a sales rep and the upside of harnessing that with the sales rep?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And I think there's a lot of, things that I think about when I hear a question like that. I mean, one is, I think people need to understand that, the future workforce, it is different. I think there's a lot of similarities to the past, but I think they also have a lot of differences. I mean, PwC says by 2020, 50% of the workforce is going to be millennials. And I think it's really important for managers, directors listening to this to just understand, like, this is a change that's happening and it's coming. And millennials, I do feel like they sometimes get misrepresented. I feel like they end up getting this kind of negative brand that, they are a certain way. But when I see them and when I work with them, what I realize is here's a bunch of people who are truly, they want to be autonomous. They want to create. They want to be in an environment where they're not necessarily being micromanaged, and they're given an opportunity to do something different that's going to help. And, at the end of the day, you're going to have like a bell curve, right? You're going to have kind of your high performers and your bottom performers in the middle. But for me personally, if I as a manager can give my employees an autonomous environment where they can truly, own their process and master, these types of new things that they can ultimately help them be more effective, more engaging with their buyers, I think it's going to help them find that they're getting more of a purpose out of their job. So for me, as a manager, I would recommend that, look, you need to embrace this change, right? I think a lot of times people think, well, new technology, I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to end up, hurting our brand? It does definitely requires trust, but I also think it just requires a level of practice and methodology, right? If you're going to give anyone something new, you're not just going to say, here it is, good luck. You're going to train them, right? You're going to help them understand how to use it, when to use it, use cases. And that's something that is really important to us. Whenever we roll out our technology, we don't just roll it out. We help them, we understand their business. And then from there, we work together to put together the right plan, the right prescription to really deploy it. And so I think if a manager can open their mind and say, all right, I want to give my reps the ability to be more autonomous. I want them to know that we trust them to be engaging with the buyer, and I'm going to equip them with the right tools and the right training to get there. Then all of a sudden, it's just like this perfect, trifecta, if you will, of just allowing them to give you ultimately not just a successful outcome for themselves, but for your business.
And so 3 things I picked up off that, 'cause that was awesome. Just clip that and use that for the whole thing. That's so good. One of the things that's really important is that, I know I'm getting pretty old right now, but and maybe you probably went through this too from a sales standpoint, but there was a time, right, when, and I think this is what's important to remember, there was a time when people wondered if email was going to be a tool to be able to pass along information in a way that would move the sales process forward, right? Like what we're going through in video now isn't much different than when email started to be incorporated in the sales process. It used to be just phone and face-to-face meetings. Now what people think of as traditional sales channels are phone, email, and face-to-face meetings. So this evolution is kind of mirroring what happened around email. Am I crazy when I say that, or are there a lot of similarities between how email got introduced and how video is being introduced?
Absolutely. I mean, it's so funny when you say that. I mean, there is a history, not too long ago, where people didn't even have emails, and people, or the people who had emails were truly just like a very small like percentage, and we were just kind of getting by with the technology you mentioned, right, with voicemails and phones and face to face, and what happened over time. I mean, even if you think about email isn't something where it's just, only a couple people can have email and it can be effective. I mean, for an organization to truly embrace email, like every employee needs email. And now all of a sudden that's what you get. And that's just kind of how life is. And for me, I think with video, that is where we're going. I mean, and you kind of see it already. Like everybody physically has the ability to record a video at any time of their life. I mean, pretty much everyone has a smartphone. Now it's just a question of how do you use this in, different aspects of your life, not just personal, but professional. And so for me, it's like the infrastructure is there. Now all we need to do is just help people make sense of this infrastructure and help them understand like how that this is going to be part of their workflow. And I'll be the first to admit, I don't want people to think that video is, the end all be all, right? It's just part of your toolkit, right? Phone's not going away. Face to face is awesome, but it's not always available. And video is just going to help you be there without being there. And you take something like email, which is definitely not going away, but it's just becoming noisy. It's becoming less effective. They say that the average person now gets 120 to 130 emails a day. I mean, gosh, that's a lot to take in. And so if I, as a salesperson, can make, my emails, if I can sprinkle in some videos from time to time and make my content more engaging with video, that to me just feels like a natural extension of just making this platform even more effective, and then ultimately getting us to a world where video is just table stakes. It's just part of the dialogue.
Absolutely. I think that's important. And I also want to make sure that when we talk to managers and sales reps, that we make sure they understand that you've got to be trained and have a sales process within the video techniques, right? Like this isn't just shooting video for video's sake, right? There has to be sales principles and sales tenets within what you're doing on a video and a point you're trying to make in a way that you're trying to move the process forward through video, right? Like when we talk about video, it's not just like Snapchatting seats or Snapchatting dialogue between a buyer and a seller, right? There has to be a context to the sales process that does remain the same regardless if you're on phone, email, video, social, or any of those, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it truly ends up being 20% technology and 80%, training and helping the company understand like the change management aspects of it. And you're spot on. I mean, yeah, anyone can record a video, but just because you can record a video doesn't mean that that's the right video. So for us, we really want to, again, take a little bit more time, help them understand, well, what are their goals? Is it more about just helping to drive awareness? Is it about helping to help move a deal forward? Then based on that, figuring out the right video use case. And it's about finding a balance because, you know, people like to do things that are easy, but I'm a huge fan of the whole saying, like the easy way is the hard way and the hard way is the easy way. Meaning if you put a little bit more effort up front, you're going to ultimately get a better return, more, juice out of that squeeze. And so for me, what I try to tell, managers is like, look, recording a video versus just sending some templated email, yeah, it's going to take a little bit more time, but you got to think about what's your goal, what's your outcome you're looking for. And if you're trying to create differentiation, if you're trying to create a more innovative outreach with your clients, that's where video is going to shine. And when you start to sprinkle that into the workflow, maybe you have 10 touches, and as part of your 10 touches, you don't just have the phone and the email and the LinkedIn social request, but you also have a video. Now all of a sudden your reps have a better understanding of how to use a tool, when to use a tool, what to say when they use a tool, and all of that becomes a lot more natural. But you got to put that training, you got to work with folks like you who understand it, who get it, and who understand not just the sports seller's mentality, but also understand the manager's mentality and how to understand which tools are going to help bring alignment.
Yeah, and even for those teams that are the most, and I think this is a good time to kind of turn into video fully here. Even when you talk to the people that have innovated the most on it, you talk to like the Sacramento Kings, who always get used in the space. I'm sure a lot of people in the sports industry are tired. They're just really good at it. So we're going to keep going there. But even if you talk to Phil Horn or Courtney Blake, they'll always tell you the next great idea hasn't been done yet, right? Like we're still turning into the space. So as we continue to turn into video, what are some of the best practices that you're seeing from teams, from structured team messages all the way down to individual rep messages?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of ways that I would approach this. One is you want to make sure that this is something that is going to be embraced by the company, because I've seen examples where there's some really ego reps who might want to use video, but then they kind of feel like they're on their own. And as a result, it ends up not really being as effective as they'd like, because, whenever you're implementing new technology, and we get this, like you want to make sure that that technology ultimately can provide data and insight back to management and the powers that be. And for us, for instance, like we're really, it's very important for us that our platform is not just utilized, but it can also provide insight back to other core systems. And most big enterprises, especially sports, they have, like that CRM, maybe it's Salesforce, maybe it's Dynamics, and that's where they keep their contacts. And for us, I would love, our tool is cool and it has a lot of power, but if we're just some siloed tool that's kind of sitting on its own, and it's not even going back to the core business systems, I feel like it's a huge miss. And so that's one thing. I want to make sure that whenever you're rolling out any technology, video or not, I think it's important to make sure that that technology is going to fit in the current landscape. Otherwise, it's going to just be underutilized. So that's one.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is as you start to think about, well, here is your landscape. You got your dynamics, you got your email, you got your social selling tools, you got this and that. All right, now I can see where video is going to fit in. It's making sure that not just the management team is bought in, for sure, the executives, the management, but also making sure that across the organization, there are a few groups that you can start at. And I think what's really important is you at that point, you can start small, right? You don't need to go crazy and try to roll it out to everybody, but I think you can find, maybe 5, 10, 20 employees who are, again, maybe your innovators, who are your kind of leaders who like to try the latest and greatest, and you sit with them and say, okay, we have a platform and this is how it works in the workflow, and we got, a few use cases or some compelling events that are coming up, and this is how we're thinking about using it. And then you really do this in parallel with the vendor, with the trainers, to make sure that all of you guys are speaking the same language. And then you use that as an opportunity, 1, 2, maybe 3 weeks, to kind of pull out some of these use cases, have them actually be executed, look at some of the results. Because then when you actually end up going to the larger audience and you're now talking about rolling out to 50, 100 reps or more, reps like to think about, hey, if I do this, what's the outcome? And so if you can go in and say, here's what you're going to be doing, here's the use case, here's the workflow, here's the trading. Oh, and by the way, we've already been able to kind of do a couple examples in the past and look at these results. Then it's like you've kind of connected the dots for them. And you've made them see that, look, this effort is going to definitely be worth the reward, because I can already see, what Brett and others are getting out of it. And so that's really important to me, is having to kind of sum up, is having, the system being part of the whole family of tools that they're already using, so it's not a one-off. And then 2, making sure that you have leadership support. 3, making sure you have a team of champions, like maybe some other reps who that can just start to use it, because they're also going to be the feet on the street. The vendors, the trainers, we can do our best to make sure that, hey, let's get you up and running. Let's make sure there's a successful launch. But then we're going to be gone, and we want to make sure that there's still people in the organization that can keep moving that process forward. So finding those champions will be really important out of the gate. And then number 4, and the final step, is then using all of that and that storyline to create a more prescriptive onboarding, to say, this is how you're going to use it, this is what you're going to use, and here's the results that you can expect, because we've already been doing it.
That's awesome. And I want to make sure we talk about the use cases really quick, because I think that's so important. I think it's a step a lot of people miss, because there's this huge thing. Oh, we get it now. Let's rush to get it out to as many people as we can. And that's just the same mistake, right? As when you just email blast like 500 buyers, right? You're not going to get a big response, because the message within it just can't be personalized or customized within that group, right? The idea is to make sure that when you're sending this video to people, whether it's one person or it's 100 people, that there's a purpose behind this video going to this person at this time. And it's not just another method to just make 100 calls in a day, or just to send an email out to 500 people. Like, just like with sales, the more customized and specific the message to the custom specific group of people, the more likely it is to land.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. I mean, the use cases, when we started this business, our initial use case was, I'm a rep, I'm trying to get your attention, so you're not answering my calls, you're not attending my events, so you're not responding to my emails. What am I going to do? And so record a quick video, put a face to a name, build some trust, show you that I'm not a robot, send it to you, and get a response. And that still is very much a very common use case. But now it's evolved. There's so many other use cases, but I would say some common use cases are, just putting that face to a name, introducing yourself, especially in the sports industry, where there's a lot of change in roles. There's a lot of new faces. There's a lot of new hires. And so as a buyer, I might be a season ticket holder for the last 10 years, and now all of a sudden I got this new guy. Like, if you can kind of personalize it, people like to buy from people they like. People like to buy from people they trust. So if I can maybe personalize it, put a face to a name, and send that as an introduction, or just hey, I just want to thank you for being a great customer of ours, all of a sudden it just starts to build that goodwill. And what's nice is those videos you can do in 2 ways. I think a lot of people, when they think about videos, they think it's got to be one-to-one, and what ends up happening, it feels very overwhelming. Like, what, I got 100 accounts, I don't have time to record 100 videos. And for me, I don't think that is the right approach. I think you have to break your accounts up. You got accounts that you are typically good to go. They're good accounts, but you just want to kind of check in. Maybe that's like 60% of your accounts. That those can be more of a general message, like, hey, this is Sati. Just want to make sure you're aware, like, the new season's about to start. Check out the schedules. Want to make sure that you know if you have any questions, I'm here for you, yada, yada, yada. And that can be sent out. That could be put in your signature. That could be put in some social experience, social platforms as more of a broadcasted message. And then for those other 40%, then you can start to think about, well, where are we at? Are they not responding to me? Did they fall off? Do I want to send them like just a quick one-off video where I can just say, hey, you know, we were talking a couple weeks ago. I haven't heard from you. Like, is everything okay? You'll be surprised. Getting a personal video like that, you know, more often than not will elicit a response, because people don't like to be rude, right? Especially if you're going to take the time to send me a personal video, I'm going to take the time to give you a yes or even a no, because that helps as well. Or it's just more of like, hey, we closed it. You know, we've now had a great meeting. There was a few follow-up actions, and I want to make sure I stay on top of it because this account could be like my whale for the quarter. Yeah, I'm going to send them a personal video. I'm going to sum up all the bullets. I'm going to make sure that they know, you know, they have everything that they need from our side. That hand holding, everything I can do to get you across the goal line in a personal, in an engaging way as well, that can be great. And we typically don't just see sales using it, service retention teams as well, right? I mean, you think about all of the things that a customer goes through, from, you know, awareness to, you know, prospecting, into like trying out the platform, looking at all the different things that you guys have to sell, your promotions, your packages, and now I'm actually your customer. Even after the fact, you know, customers still want to get, you know, insight, right? It's like a marriage. You have to continue to put, you know, love and attention and, you know, into this relationship. Otherwise, they're just going to be like, you know, is that it? Like, you know, now that you got the money from me, you're never going to talk to me. And so for me, I feel like this is something where you really want to look at the entire customer journey. And then you want to look at, where do you guys feel that there could be areas where you can improve, and go from there. I mean, I mean, I'll be very honest. Like, if you're the Warriors right now, like, they're not having trouble like selling tickets, but maybe there's other aspects of their business where they want to make more personal. So it's just about knowing your current landscape of how you take a customer womb to tomb, and then figuring out, well, where are there areas where we can be more personal, more engaging, and help our reps.
And I think that's the most important thing when you think about video, is whether you're going to hit it to a wide audience or you're going to hit it to a one-to-one audience. It's still got to be a targeted message. And I think, just like anything else, if the message isn't targeted, it's not going to land. But video has this just incredible way of making a targeted message just stand out even more. And so to that point, because that's one of the things that you know that I love about OneMob, can you talk about how, outside of the video, outside of the message the rep's delivering itself, what are some of the other really cool features about OneMob that can help increase that personalization, customization, and the team touches? Because that's where, to me, you know, because I think the easy thing to say is, right, why not just you do YouTube private, right? Or just you do YouTube. There's so many things that OneMob does that I think really makes the video stand on its own, that I think are really worthwhile conversation for us to have. So what are those things that makes it stand out?
Yeah, I'll break it up into three pillars. So first, I think is content. Second, I feel like is the way we present, and the third is, I feel like, the insights and the analytics. So if I talk about content, I mean, yeah, anyone can record a video. You can pull out your phone right now and record a video. But what I think we do really well is we try to find that nice balance of, you know, consumer friendly, Snapchat, Instagram, but also professional, right? Like, we're not trying to make you look like you have like a big dog tongue come out of your mouth. But we are trying to do is make it so that your videos look professional, that they have like your logo, so that when they see it, it's not just a random person, but they can see, you know, that awesome sports logo that they already know, that just already has like this connection with them. Also, you know, our platform allows you to do green screening. Green screening is amazing. I mean, green screening is basically what drives Hollywood, and we give the reps the ability to like put a green screen behind them and have anything behind them. Have, you know, highlights of last night's game. Have the customer's logo, right? Going back to personalization. How cool! People love seeing their name. People love seeing their company. So if all of a sudden I'm seeing not just, you know, a video from one of my favorite sports teams, but now I can see my logo in the background, it's just that icing on the cake. So from a content creation, we've spent a lot of time to make it very easy for reps to pull this out of their phone, record content, add a green screen, customize the background, and, you know, voila, all of a sudden you've created this little mini movie, if you will, but you don't need to be like a videographer. You don't need to be like an expert in that kind of space. Secondly is we also know from content, it's not always what you are saying. Sometimes it's what you want to show. We have a lot of examples. I'm seeing great examples where these reps have recorded, how to use the mobile app, like how to use the sports team's mobile app to check schedules, to do things, to pre-book events. And so what they're doing is they're actually using our other technology, which is called One Screen, where you can record your screen, record your phone screen, record your computer screen, and walk people through like, hey, this is how you use our products, how you use the portal, so that again the customer feels just more educated, more equipped to be successful. So that's the content. And then the other big component is how you present it. And so for us, when we started this business, a lot of people thought, oh, you guys are like YouTube, you can share videos. But then what we realized is that, well, actually we do video sharing, but we do a lot more. And we do tell people like, look, YouTube is fantastic. It's not going anywhere. But if I'm a seller, let's be honest, the last thing I want you to do is end up on YouTube, because if I send you to YouTube, you're gonna get subjected to ads. You're gonna probably see competitive information, and you end up might getting totally distracted, and you're looking at cat videos or something. So for us, we want to make it very easy for the reps to create content, put it on a web page that we allow you to do. You can literally build a mini web page, like all drag and drop, put not just a video, but now put documents, presentations, proposals, website links, you name it, and send you that whole web page of content. Because if you think about video is an amazing hook. It is that Trojan horse that's going to get their attention. But then once I have your attention, video is only part of the conversation. Tell me about other things that you want me to know about. Again, promotions, things like that. And so our web page is everything else. It gives you all the other content in one place. I don't need to hop around. And so now I, as the buyer, I can see everything I need in one place. And as I'm clicking around and as I'm watching things and watching videos and viewing presentations, that means to the third part of our platform, which is the insight. We will track everything. Most platforms will just track one thing. Did you view the slide? Did you watch the video? We track all of that and more. What else how much time they spent on the page, etc. And again, to me as a rep, that's a huge, huge opportunity, because I can use that insight to follow up accordingly. I can use it to know that when I follow up, I can talk about the relevant things. If I've shared 5 pieces of content and you only looked at 2 of them, why do I need to talk about those 3? Let me just focus on the 2 things that you care about. So giving you that insight, not just to the rep directly, but even tying it back to the CRM, which is why I was really bullish earlier about making sure we're part of the workflow. That's really important too, because then again, over time, you can look at trends and reps can say, I have 100 accounts, and I notice of my 100 accounts, the 50 or 60 that keep closing, it's because I keep sending them these 4 or 5 pieces of content. So now as a rep, I'm going to be like, I just need to keep using, I got to double down there. So those are a lot of those are probably the 3 biggest components of the platform: content creation, the web pages for a better presentation and a better delivery of more than just video, and then the insights and the analytics.
That's awesome. And so I think, that's such a perfect presentation of the value of it. Can you talk, I think this is one thing that I wanted to make sure I asked. What is one thing or 2 things that you've seen reps done that on it, or teams do on it, that have just been absolute home runs so far? Maybe one thing that a team did where the campaign itself was a home run, and then one thing that you saw an individual rep do that you were like, man, that's good. Like, that was awesome.
Yeah, man, there's so many to choose from, but just off the top of my head, there was a sports team I was working with, and they actually put this on LinkedIn, so you can probably find it. It was one of the reps from the White Sox, and maybe not 100% comfortable with recording a video themselves. And you get that, right? Not everyone's comfortable with recording a video themselves. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but that's okay, because people just like watching videos, and it can be a video of you or something else. And what this rep did is he literally had like a first person type of experience of holding a hot dog and walking to the seats. So he's recording a video of him with the hot dog in his hand. So all you do is you see the hot dog and it's moving through the bleachers, and it gets to right, next to the dugout. He sits down, right then, like, the batter hits the ball. He's enjoying his hot dog. And the whole thing that I thought was so effective was like, this is what you can be doing right now. This is what your team can be doing right now. And he sent that video, but actually what he ended up doing, which I thought was also great, is we have this nice integration with LinkedIn. So he posted the video on LinkedIn, and that video, and it's probably a lot longer now, but a lot more now. But I think within the first week, it got over 12,000 views. And
crazy.
if you think about as a seller to get that type of engagement, I mean, that's just unheard of. So that's one thing I thought that was just fantastic. And again, it also made me realize like these videos don't have to be about you. They can be about something else and they're just as engaging. And then
Yeah.
from a more kind of a widespread thing was, and I'll be doing a blog about this a little bit later, but another manager, he knew that there was some compelling events coming up. They've tried some traditional methods to get some engagement. They weren't working really well. So what this manager did is he put together a page with some content with some RSVP buttons on it, and he just told the reps, "Hey, I've done 80% of the work for you guys. I've already put out all the content. Just do me a favor and record just a quick video saying, hey, I want to invite you to this event." Because he did that heavy lifting and he shared it with his 20 reps, the reps just, spent 2-3 minutes, recorded their video, blasted it out, and immediately they saw like a 10x return in terms of engagement, responses, and even meetings set. And I like that example because the manager really helped to kind of drive the success. And for the reps, they didn't have to spend a lot of time writing a huge script. All they had to do was just, invite their audience, and they just used their invitation email. But instead of writing it out, they just said it, and they got people. I mean, some of the reps were like, literally, the moment I sent it, 5 minutes later, someone calls me saying, "Oh my gosh, I got your video. That was awesome. Thanks for the personal invitation." So things like that, I think, have been some good use cases I can think of lately. But there's so many, and I think more come. And I'm excited to see like what comes out of this, because I feel like hopefully the audience who's listening, you guys will come up with some new ideas that we haven't even thought of, and I'd love to see, what you do.
Yeah. And I think one thing that's really important, so it's almost like a caveat, right, is listen, even if it doesn't get the results of the 12,000 views in 1 week, or it doesn't get the, like 100% growth when it comes to, the amount of people that are responding to it, I think what's important to reinforce is that, and this is still sales at the end of the day. So any percentage growth that you get by utilizing video is a net positive for you. I think sometimes, right, we say these things and we expect people to all of a sudden do it, and they get disappointed by a 5% more boosted engagement or a 10% boosted engagement. We talk about these other numbers, but those are huge, right? Like, I want to make sure that we're not saying that this is exactly what will happen if you do it, but teams should be thrilled if engagement goes up 2%, 3%, 5% by using video, because over time, that amount of increased engagement over the course of a year is probably hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of sales.
Absolutely. Totally. And I will say this, which is really funny. I mean, if you make a phone call and it goes to voicemail, as a rep, you're not going to stop making calls. You're going to just keep making calls. Or if you send an email and you don't get a response, that doesn't mean you're going to stop using email. It is what it is. And so we do tell people, like, look, you might send a video and you might get no response. It doesn't mean that the video wasn't effective. Maybe the message was wrong. Maybe the approach, maybe the use case was not right. So, or yeah, maybe you get like 2%, but you're like, wow, I thought I was going to get 100% return. I think people just need to realize, like, all these tools have their benefits. They all have their value. And if they don't work, you don't get rid of the tool. You have to just kind of rethink. And again, I think what's really important is you're talking about something that is being adopted by the globe. I mean, video is the most engaging form of content. It is being used by everyone. People are on Netflix, on YouTube, and so to me, it's just one of these things where you're either using video today or you're going to be using it later, because you're going to have to catch up.
Yeah, people are communicating in that. I mean, I think that was ultimately how people eventually came around in email, right? Was, listen, I guess 100% of people ultimately came around in email, because at some point, all right, everybody's talking there, so I guess I need to talk there. When this should be the opposite, right? Like, let me be one of those people that's talking there first, and let me develop my space here, because ultimately that's only going to be a benefit for me in the long run.
Absolutely.
And so, kind of turning this completely on its head, because, like I said, I think we've done a good job of, if people aren't sold on video now, then I don't know what to do to help them. So when you think about you and OneMob and where you want to go, what drives you, and what's gotten you to this level of success? Because, as you know, I'm a huge admirer of the company, and I think it's cool for reps when they see successful people and entrepreneurs, that they understand, what gets them up out of bed every morning.
Yeah, for me, Honestly, I'm driven because I just think this is still so exciting, and we're just scratching the surface. I think when I have the opportunity to work with folks like you and with reps, and I get to see them try this platform and see the results, it sounds kind of cliche or cheesy, but it's really, I mean, it's really kind of emotional for me because I feel like I want people to embrace technology. I want them to use technology to help them be more effective. And if our technology can be part of that conversation, like that's awesome because I know it's something where we're not sometimes, I don't feel like sometimes when people think about video, they think, oh, okay, well, I got 10 things I got to do right now. And what keeps me up at night is probably not video. It's probably something else. Maybe it's a board meeting or something. But for me, what I'm trying to help people understand is there is there are different things that you are going to be doing in your career, and if we can be part of that, I think that's awesome. And that, I think, is what inspires me and what motivates me. I mean, there was actually a totally different use case that's unrelated that I'll just quickly say. An employee at a large company was trying to get a job, a promotion, and was interviewing with like 10 other people, and they're trying to figure out, how am I going to differentiate myself? And so what they ended up doing is they used our platform. They created a video of why they think they need to be the best candidate. They put together a web page of what they've been working on, their blogs, their personal interests, things like that. Sent it to the hiring manager, and they got the job. And I think when I heard that, I thought that was amazing because, again, like, we just want to help people be heroes, be champions. We want to help the folks who maybe not getting as much attention as they deserve. And if our platform can help to provide that avenue, then that keeps me not just motivated, but that makes me want to just continue to do more in this space, and hopefully see something that that other companies can embrace, right? I think there's more companies that we're seeing lately that are doing video as well, and that's awesome because I think rising tides lifts all ships. And I love working with folks like you because it's with our voice and with our message. This will be something that's not just a thought, not just a nice to have, but it's going to be something that just, again, it's table stakes and it's part of the fabric of sales.
Yeah, and I think we both know this is a need to have within the next few years. And so as we just said a little while ago, the further you are ahead on that curve, the more results that are going to come to you down the line once everybody's in that space. So listen, I appreciate the time. This was awesome. I can't imagine anyone listening to this and not wanting to do it. So where can they find you? Where can they connect with you? If there's something that they want to get out of this or a conversation they want to further, where can they reach out to you?
Absolutely. So definitely feel free to visit the website, www.onemob.com. You can even start a trial. So if you're thinking about it and you want to kick the tires, whether you're a rep or your manager, and you want to just explore the platform, feel free to. You can always reach out to me also through Twitter. So my handle is just @SATI @Sati. But yeah, start there. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to our team at OneMob, sales@onemob.com, and we're happy to work with you guys to get you guys up and running and really share some of the successes that we've been seeing with all these other sports teams and bring it to your organization, your league as well.
Yeah, and listen, my advice is, as we head out here, is listen, if you're a rep and you're not in a position to be able to ultimately make that decision at the team, go out and create the use case that makes your team, make it impossible for your team not to get OneMob. I think whether that's through a trial with OneMob or whether that's you going out and utilizing video on your own. Obviously get some permission on that one first, but create those use cases, be the one that creates that change within your organization, because otherwise you're just going to fall behind while the other teams and reps really take advantage of it.
Awesome, man.
Listen, buddy, I appreciate it and look forward to more information coming.
Thank you so much again for the time, and thanks for everyone listening.